Okay, so my green group friends, we basically went over most of the study guide. We are on the very last sections of the study guide. So this says find the GCF for each pair of numbers by drawing a prime factor tree. In the blank, list what prime numbers you need to multiply together to find your GCF. Okay, so this is just, again, really testing your ability to create those factor trees. Okay, and you're going to utilize that to find your GCF. Again, the previous knowledge is you were taught in Unit 5 how to create those prime factor trees. We're just building on that previous knowledge. Now, what you learned in Unit 6 was how do you find the greatest common factor? How do you find that GCF? So you should be very comfortable by now creating prime factor trees. You've done it for two units now. So the real new thing that you were taught was how to find that greatest common factor. Okay? Okay. Let me just get it. All right. So the first problem we have is 44 and 108, and we're asked to find the greatest common factor. And you also have to list what prime numbers you used and multiplied together to find that greatest common factor. Okay, so I have 44 and 108. 108. Okay, so for you guys, the way we've been factoring out is if you see it's an even number, you guys have been most comfortable with dividing by 2, which I'm perfectly fine with you guys doing. So if you want to keep dividing out by 2 until you get your final result, then let's do it that way. So since that's how most of you guys do it, that's the way I'm going to do it up here for you guys. Okay, so we're going to say 2 times what gives me 44. Okay, so it's 2 times 22 gives me 44. Remember, a prime number is any number that's divisible by only 1 and itself. So we know 2 is a prime number, so we circle that because there's nothing else we can do with that, and we move on to 22. If it's not a prime number and it's a composite number, we must keep breaking down the numbers until we're left with just prime numbers. Okay, so 22, if you want, we'll keep doing the 2's because that's what you're comfortable with. So I'm going to say 2 goes into 22 11 times. Okay, and this was a pretty easy one because 2 is a prime number and 11 is a prime number, so you're done with 44. Okay, all done. So now, so remember, step 1, let's erase this, that was from yellow group. So when we're looking for our GCF, step 1, create your factor trees. Okay, we're still on step 1, so I'm not going to list step 2 yet. Okay, because we still have to do the factor tree for 108. Okay, so again, you guys are most comfortable with dividing by 2, so I'm going to divide by 2 for you guys. So let's see, 2 goes into 10 5 times, 2 goes into 8 4 times. So 2 times 54 gives me 108. We know 2 is a prime number, so I circle that. I can't do anything else with it. I can't divide anything else out. 54 is a composite number, again, meaning you can keep dividing out, and you're going to keep doing that till you're left with just your prime numbers. So again, you are most comfortable with dividing by 2, so I'm going to divide by 2. Okay, 2 goes into 5 2 times with 1 remaining. 2 goes into 14 7 times. So 2 times 27 gives me 54. Okay, 2 is a prime number, so I'm going to circle that. I can't do anything else with it. Now, 27 is a composite number, which means I can keep breaking it down until I get just prime numbers. So I'm going to keep dividing out. This one I'm going to say 3, because I can't do 2 anymore because it's an odd number. So we know right away I'm done with the 2's. So I'm going to say 3 times 9 gives me 27. 3 is a prime number, so I'm going to circle it. And now I just got to get my 9 down to prime numbers. And we know 3 times 3 is 9, because the last section in this unit is working with squares. And we know 3 squared is 9. So they're our last 2 prime numbers. So now that we are down to just our prime numbers, we're ready for step 2. Step 2 is to find and circle the common prime numbers. Okay, so remember, GCF, what does that literally mean? GCF means greatest common factor. Okay, so you're looking at what they have in common. The name in itself gives it away. What do they have in common? Okay, so now I have to go back through and I have to circle if the same prime number is on this side and is on this side, I circle it because they have it in common. So I see there's a 2 here and a 2 here. I'm going to circle that because I know they're in common. Okay, I see there's another 2 here and another 2 here, which means they have 2 2's in common. So I'm going to circle the second 2 because I know they have 2 2's in common. I see there's an 11 here, but there's not an 11 on this side. So they do not have an 11 in common. Then I stop. Why do I stop? Because that's all that's on this side. So that means I don't even have to look at the rest, the 3's on this side, because if it's not on this side, they can't have it in common. It has to be on both sides. Okay? So the only thing they have in common is 2 2's. Okay? Step 3. Multiply the common prime numbers to find your GCF. So again, the name in and of itself gives it away. So, yes, do I know 2 is a factor of both of these numbers? Yes, I do know that. But do I want to know the smallest common factor? No, I want to know the greatest common factor. So I need to multiply all the common factors to find out what's the biggest common factor. So I'm going to say 2 times 2 equals 4, okay? 4 equals your GCF, final answer. On your test on Wednesday, that is everything that you're being asked to do. You have to show all of that, because if you look at the directions say find the greatest common factor, which is 4, okay? And it says for each pair of numbers, draw the prime factor tree. We did that. And it says list what prime numbers you need to multiply together to find the greatest common factor. So you have to show me what prime numbers you're multiplying together. So you would do 2 times 2 equals 4 equals GCF. Okay, so this whole thing is your answer. All right. Let me just make sure that's not anyone that has a question. It's not. There's still nobody on, so we'll keep going. All right, so let's try another one of these. And then we're going to shoot down to the bottom, which should be so super duper easy for you guys, because the bottom part of your test is just testing your calculator knowledge. There is no thought process behind it. You just type it into your calculator, and the calculator does all the work for you, okay? So we'll do one more of these, and then we shall move on. Okay. Let's do number 2. We'll just shoot right over to number 2. Okay, so number 2 is find the GCF of 190 and 210. So this we are gonna use our divisibility rules, because it will take a long time to do dividing out by 2's. So just for time purposes. So you know, we've gone over the divisibility rules over and over and over again. Anything that ends in a 0 or 5 is divisible by 5, okay? Anything that ends in a 0 is divisible by 10, right? So we can start off with dividing out the 10 if you want. That might be easiest, right? So you could say, okay, all the reminders I keep getting. You could say 19 times 10, okay, will give me 190. Again, just doing it this way is going to save you a lot of steps and some time. And the periods are a lot shorter, so I just want to make sure we get through the other stuff, okay? Now, if you want, on your own, you can go and keep dividing out the 2's. And again, as long as you do your division correctly, you will come up with the same final answer as me. Okay? We know 19 is a prime number because it's only divisible by 1 in itself, so I'm going to circle it. It's all done. Okay? So 10 is a composite number. It's an even number, so you know for a fact you can divide a 2 into it. So we're going to divide it by 2. 2 times 5 equals 10, both of which are prime numbers, so we circle it and we're done. So that's why I wanted to divide by 10. Makes it super duper easy, okay? So now, this one I'm going to divide by 10, so it's going to be 21 times 10 gives me 210. 21, you can say 3 times 7 will give me 21. Both of these are prime numbers, so you circle it. And again, we have 10, which is over here, so you're going to say 2 times 5, okay? And they're both prime numbers, so you're going to circle them. So step 1 is done. You created your factor tree, and you're ready for step 2. Step 2 is find all the common prime numbers, okay? And you're going to circle them. So I see I have a 2 on this side and a 2 on that side. So So I'm going to circle the 2's because they're in common. I see I have a 5 on this side and a 5 on this side, so I'm going to circle my 5's because they're in common. Then I have a 19. I don't have a 19 on this side, so that's it. That's all I have in common. So again, going through the steps of everything that's required for your answer for your test, you would say 2 times 5 equals 10 equals GCF. Okay, so 10 is your GCF. And what prime numbers did you have to multiply together? What prime numbers did they have in common? 2 and 5. So 2 times 5 gives me my GCF of 10, right? So my GCF is 10. And what 2 prime numbers did they have in common? 2 and 5. Okay? So with that said, you can try the other one by yourself. And then I want to just quickly go through the bottom of this study guide packet. Yeah, I got a little bit of time. So the bottom, again, you really just need to know how to input this in your calculator. I bought everyone one of these calculators, one of these scientific calculators. So as long as you just put it in your calculator, you're fine. And this part of the test, I'm just checking your calculator skills, because on the algebra keystone you get to utilize a calculator, and there's a lot of questions that expect you know how to do this in the calculator. So I just want to make sure you're familiar with how to do some of this stuff in the calculator. Okay, so for instance, if you go to where it says find the square number of the following numbers, okay, so, and please remember, whether you're in replacement math or not, everyone has to take the algebra keystones at least one time. Okay? So number 1, I have 12 squared equals, okay, so that's the first one, 12 squared. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this to both cameras because this is going to be difficult. I got one mainstream. Well, there's no one live right now, right? No. Okay, so I'll just do it to this one. All right, so we have this calculator. Let me see if I can hopefully get this so I can see. We have this calculator. Okay, so 12 squared on the calculator Miss Fisher bought you, which I want you to utilize for this test. You simply do 1, 2, you got 12, and this is your square button where it says x squared. Do x squared, it gives you 144. Okay, so you say 144. Okay, that's all. You don't have to think. You let the calculator do all the work. I'm just testing your calculator skills for this part of the assessment. Okay, so the next one says 20 squared. So we're just going to go through all of these, right? 20 squared. 3. 41 squared. Okay. So we're just going to clear that out. All right. So again, if I'm hitting 20 squared, I'm just going to hit my 2, hit my 0, and then my square button, right? And it gives me 400. And last one, 41 squared. I don't think you can get easier questions than this. Okay, so 41 squared, I'm just going to hit my 4, I'm going to hit my 1, and then I'm going to hit my squared button. 1681, 1,681. Okay? Don't worry about putting your commas in. I'll understand it either way. Okay? Now, the next one is about square roots. We were talking about how square and square roots are basically the inverse. Okay? Okay. So what does that mean? So just to make sure you remember what that means. So again, this is saying you have two 20s. So that's 20 squared is 20 times 20. I have two 20s, and that equals 400. The square root. So if I asked you what's the square root of 400, okay, what I'm asking you is what number times itself gives me 400? What number times itself gives me 400? And the answer would be 20. And that's why they're the inverse of each other. Okay? So now, with that said, and that's the thought process behind it, again, you only need to understand how to do it in your calculator. Okay? So this is number 1, says in this section, it asks you what is the square root of 1,600. Okay? So I have 1,600, and then this is the square root button. I hope everyone can see that. This is the square root button. I hit square root, it gives me 40. Okay, number 2, and that's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking you to do. You would just literally say 40. Number 2 says square root of 625. Okay, so again, you simply enter 625 and then press your square root button and you get 25. Okay, and that is everything that will be on your Unit 6 assessment on Wednesday. So tomorrow I will open it up for any questions you have, but we have officially gone over the entire study guide, so you should be set to go. And that's about it. Don't forget, you always have an iReady due every week, so your iReady is due on Wednesday, so you guys should be working on that as well. All right, well, I hope you had a good day at home, and I will see everyone tomorrow. Bye now.